So welcome to our first webinar of 2023. Our title for our webinar today is called How to Create a Change in Your Health in 2023. And I got lots of good stuff for you in this webinar, lots of good stuff to chat about, and some, like I like to call them, the golden nuggets. Drop a few golden nuggets here and there. Again, not to be confused with the chicken nuggets, equally good, but the golden nuggets are those aha moments where sometimes things just resonate or make a lot of sense with us. Or I like to say it's more memory, right? We're remembering things that we already know, but sometimes we've disconnected from the things that we know inside. And so that's really we'll kind of delve into that. The first part, though, is, when I had the title, How to Create Change in Your Health in 2023, for me, like I say, sometimes there's a lot of information that I often try to get into a small amount of time. And rather than kind of over deliver and give too much, I like to kind of slow it down, break it down, make it really simple. And so I'm going to start with my just first 10 givens. So the givens are the given things that you should do for your health. And so as we come into a new year, there's a couple of givens that it's just like I call it like a given. It's just something that we all know or maybe forgotten, but it's just stuff that we generally know. And the first one for health is exercise. I always say, like, after I can stop saying now next year I'm going to be 30 years doing bioenergy, so it's this year. So I've been doing bioenergy 30 years, and it's there's a lot of lessons you learn over that time. There's a lot of things you learn about staying healthy, helping people who are really sick turn their health around and get better. And so I've been very good at helping people turn their health around, get better, help people who have been stuck to get healing when their body just hasn't been healing, to get their body healing. And then also, to get to reach to a new level of health, because I always think that the more we progress with our health, and that health is not a static state. Health is not just the absence of illness, but health is so much more. And when we bring ourselves to new levels of health, the further we are away from sickness. So I kind of have two approaches. One is to help people turn their health around if they're sick, but also to help healthy people get even healthier and move away from the potential to be sick. Because sometimes, like, that potential to be sick is sometimes lingering around, right? Like it doesn't really take a lot for a lot of people's health to go into decline. It's not that, not a big window. And what I like to do is to make that a bigger window, so that the more your health is really vibrating well, the further you are from getting sick. And so we'll have a look at that too. So the first given I always say is exercise. Exercise is a given for health. And what is exercise is about moving. The body needs to move. The body, mind, and the emotions need to move. They need to be in motion. The mind needs movement for the body, or it becomes stagnant. But exercise for your physical body is so important. And whether, what's the best exercise? Well, I think the one that you do. You can know all about exercise and not do any of them. So the one that you do is the best exercise. I would say, like, yoga being up there is one of the top 10 things that you can do, because it just encompasses like everything. It's an ancient practice, and really encompasses it all. For me, I've never been a gym person. I've tried it. I've tried going to the gym. I just don't like it, you know. I think working is better, whether that's like working in the garden or doing something is better for me than the gym. But I found like I love hiking, and that's a great one. But I think the big thing with exercise is that there's been studies done that showed that it's literally the cure for depression. Exercise is the cure for depression. So if you're feeling depressed, get up off your arse and go exercise. Of course, the problem is when you're depressed, you don't feel like doing anything, but it literally is the cure for depression. Of course, maybe pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know that, but it's literally exercise is up there as one of the best things you can do for your health. And of course, your joints, right? So if we're not exercising over time, our joints get stiff and they start to break down. So exercise up there is a number one, or, you know, they're not specifically in order of the best. The best will come last. The last one is the best. But the first one being exercise. Second one is eat well. You know, people always ask me as a practitioner, you know, what do you recommend for diet or food? And, you know, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not, you know, most people are really well educated. It's not that we're not educated. People know what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat, but there's so much different information out there. I like to bring it back really simple when it comes to eating well. I think it's about eating one ingredient foods. You know, a potato is a potato, an apple is an apple. And now, you know, there's just so much processed food out there that, you know, if you can't understand what the ingredients are, you probably shouldn't be eating it. That's kind of my take. So when I think of what does it mean to eat well, it's really about eating more single ingredient foods. And I think that's always a good plan. With eating well, you know, a big one I see is digestive problems, right? So when people are not eating well, their digestive system lets them know, right? So if you're having digestive problems, there's probably things you're eating that is not so good for you. The body has an amazing, like the body's bioenergy, the biofield has an amazing capacity and ability to keep bringing itself into balance. So even if you're not eating well and you're eating toxins in your body will eliminate those toxins. So there, we can go into that after, but there's different reasons why when we're under stress, say, the things that you might eat that are bad for you will suddenly cause problems in your digestive system. But if you're not under stress and you're eating things that are not bad for you, your body will eliminate those toxins. But I always think, give your body a rest. Stop eating the junk. And it's, you know, whether you're under stress or not under stress, just stop eating the processed foods. And I think that I've always said, I feel like our bodies like are getting louder and louder at telling us what to eat and what not to eat, you know. And you see that when working with people with the digestive system, their body is telling them what to eat and what not to eat. I think in terms of healing, I like if a person's energy field is flowing freely, people can eat whatever they want, right? And the body will eliminate the toxins. But it, you know, so I like to get people to a place where they can eat foods that maybe they couldn't eat before. But I think it's nice to have that option, but maybe like, even if you can eat whatever you want, it's still good maybe not to eat certain foods, you know? So just because your body isn't reacting to certain foods doesn't mean that they're good for your system. So I like to get people where they can eat whatever they want, but then maybe they're choosing to eat in a healthier way. Number 3 on the list for healthy new year is sleep. I mean, sleep is a big one. I've always been, I have to admit, I've been very fortunate to run off less sleep and be super healthy. But again, I would say it's because my biofield is working pretty well. But I think it's a simple thing that people can do, anyone can do, is make sure you're getting lots of sleep, and a set sleep time every night is also good. And I mean, sleep is always going to be good for your energy levels, right? So it's always, you're getting recharged, you're getting energized. So sleep is always a good one to get rid of any tiredness or exhaustion or that. The next one is number 4 is hydrate. So hydration, we gotta have our water, right? The magical H2O, where we're hydrating our body, hydrating the cells of the body. And one of the things I find with hydration, and again, something I've learned over 30 years, is what a lot of people don't realize, the #1 cause of headaches, you guessed it, lack of hydration. Dehydration is the #1 cause of headaches. So sometimes there's very simple things you got to do for your health. Like sometimes it's not as complicated, but it's hydration is so important. Drinking lots of water, getting your 8 glasses in at least a day. If you have a cup of coffee, then 2 glasses of water, an extra 2 glasses of water, but staying hydrated. It's also really good for if anybody ever suffers with like not just headaches, but like a fogginess in their head or like not clear thinking. That's often, I found that to be a sign of dehydration. So water is a great key there. And it's also when we hydrate enough, we tend not to overeat. I find like a lot of people when they're overeat, they're not drinking enough water. So when you like, it's almost like people have confused, like you get a message from your body that you need to hydrate, and people have confused that message with they need to eat. And so people eat often when they, instead of hydrating. So if you're hungry, maybe drink some water, wait 20 minutes, and you might find that you're not hungry anymore. And so I found that to be a big help. I like to drink water at room temperature, and I find it so much more digestible, and it doesn't take any energy from your body to process that. If you drink water too cold, although it's nice and refreshing on a summer's day, but I'm a person that consumes a lot of water, because when you're doing energy healing, you move a lot of energy through your body. And so when I'm doing healing or even in a training room, I'm like literally drinking liters and liters of water. And it's my body is literally telling me hydrate like 5-6 times more than normal, and it's just like that's what we need when we're moving a lot of energy through our body. But hydration always is a good one there. Number 5 is breathe. So a good tip for the new year is breathe. And breathing is definitely not overrated. It's in every yoga class, meditation, every qigong class, any like integrated modality is always going to tell you breathe with your practice, and there's a few moments every day to slow down and breathe is an amazing way to eliminate stress. Stress being one of the big causes of illness and sickness, and when you're feeling good, you might take time to sit down and breathe. But it's also about being able to do it in the times when you don't feel good, in the times when you're busy. They're the times where you want to sit down and breathe, because now you're training yourself that when you face stress, instead of facing the stress head on, that you slow down, and that I would say like you're unhooking the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system mean that fight or flight. And when we're under stress, we go into that stress state. And breathing 3 slow, long, deep breaths is one of the best ways to unhook ourselves from the sympathetic nervous system, bring the sympathetic and the parasympathetic into balance. And it's one of the best ways to eliminate stress. And on a day-to-day level, and your body only knows you're breathing from right now. So, like I said, you can't breathe from the past, you can't breathe from the future. So just like hydrating yourself with water, breathing from this present moment, from the present, from now is so important. And then number 6 on my list is cold dips. So the cold dips are the cold showers or going into the ocean in the winter and having a cold dip. unless you live in the Mediterranean. But generally, like in the Pacific Ocean, it gets a little cold in the winter, and going into that freezing cold water, although it's a shock to the body, it activates the sympathetic nervous system. But if you do some breathing beforehand, you activate the sympathetic nervous system before you go into the cold water. And then when you go into the cold water, you're breathing very slowly, activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And that allows you then to stay in the cold water. So some of the records for being in the cold water has been up to 3 hours. The world record, I think, at the moment is 3 hours. Wim Hof, the famous Iceman, he did 2 hours in ice cold water. You don't have to do anything like that, but even if you did 20 seconds in a cold shower after your warm shower, it's really good for your body. If you're in the ocean and you do 1 minute, that's great. If you're able to stay in and do 10 minutes, that's wonderful. If you're doing 20, that's pretty amazing. At 8 minutes, hypothermia sets in, so you'll know if you're not breathing correctly. So but it's really amazing to be able to do that ice cold dips in a glacier river or in the ocean. But you can always start in your shower. After your hot shower, just have a 10-second cold shower. And if you put it to like absolute cold, 10 seconds is a long time if you haven't done it before. But I like that for immunity boosting. So boost your immunity, boost your system. When you're in that ice cold water, you're not thinking about anything else. It's like when a diver goes under the water and they're scuba diving and they're opening up to that whole beautiful world of under the ocean, and it's like a meditation, right? They're not thinking of other stuff. Well, the ice cold does that too. It clears your mind, right? For a few moments, it's clearing your mind, and there's a power in that coldness, So that's a good one for if you don't do that. It's a great thing to start bringing into your life. I think one of the reasons too is it creates a lot of resilience in your body, and God knows we all need more resilience. Life can be a bit crazy at times, and the more resilience we have, the better, of course. That was number 6. Number 7 on my list of healthy things to do is meditate. Don't medicate. Now, with that, I'll do a little disclaimer. Like my disclaimer is meditate, don't medicate. Basically, we're so used to medicating ourselves, whether it's with drugs or coffee or other things that we might do, alcohol or drugs, whatever it might be. We have a society of medication, pharmaceuticals in one way or another, illegal or not illegal. Like alcohol is illegal medication, but it medicates your emotions, right? So you don't have to feel them. But let me tell you this, after 30 years of working with people in healing, everything you suppress is still there, and it's like pushing a basketball underneath the water. It takes a lot of energy to keep these things suppressed. We all have a pain body, our suffering. And when we're suppressing that pain body down, it's only a matter of time before it pops up again. And in bioenergy, we call that the shadows. The shadow self pops up. Your pain body pops up. And it pops up as your ego looking to project your unhealed things inside of you onto other people, and so the meditation is a great way to bring your mind into balance, to take the time to bring your mind into its center and to clear your mind, to empty your mind. And a lot of times people say, well, Michael, I have trouble meditating. Like when I meditate, my mind is so busy. And I think, that's brilliant. And they're like, why? And I'm like, well, Because meditation is showing you how your mind is. And believe it or not, your mind is always that busy. Meditation is just showing you what is unconscious to you. And so it's bringing it into your consciousness, right? You're becoming aware of what your body knows, that your mind is always busy, but it's like now it's showing you, if you're not able to sit in stillness, there's something wrong, right? And we have that in our society today, that people can't sit still, right? They got to be moving all the time. You can't even go into the washroom without being on your phone, right? I mean, that's where, if anybody sends you a message, guaranteed 50% of those messages are coming from the washroom. Just, just so we know, right? But it's like, meditation is a great way to unplug, right? You're unplugging, I think in terms of medication, pharmaceutical drugs, I think like not all medication is bad. I think that, we're in a society where medication has come a long way and pharmaceuticals have come a long way, and there's a lot of good in them, and there's times where maybe we can use them and they're good for us, but there's also a lot of times where, if you're taking the same medication over and over and over and over and you're not getting better, then you're really just suppressing the symptoms. You're not really clearing those symptoms out of the way, you're just suppressing them. And so it's just something to be aware of. Like, are we suppressing things, or are we allowing them to come true and come out? And when we talk about making a change in your health, or reaching a new level of health that you haven't experienced before, then you have to do something different than what you've been previously doing, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So, just as medication can be good for certain things, there's also, it's so beautiful when we come back to our natural health and we start to take care of our mind. And the one thing I've come to understand about the mind is that the mind directs the body. So if we want to get the body healthy, we want to get the mind healthy too. It's holistic health. It's body, mind, and our spirit. We got to bring them all into alignment, So I think when we meditate too, I think it helps to reduce, if not release, addictions. And it helps to clarify the mind and clear the mind. And it helps to give us, I think one of the big causes behind addictions, what studies show is it's a lack of connection. And, there's lots of practices you can do to have connection with other people. But I've always believed our first connection is with ourselves. There in bioenergy, we say there's 3 relationships, and we call them the right relationships. And the first right relationship is coming into right relationship with yourself. The second right relationship is coming into right relationship with spirit. Whether you call that God, whether you call that Mother Gaia, Sophia, whether you call that Father Sky, whatever name you want to give it, the earth's energy, the cosmic energy, whatever name you want to give it, the second relationship is coming into right relationship with spirit or with nature, and then the third relationship is coming into right relationship with each other. And when we come into right relationship with ourselves, then we stop messing up the planet, right? Because when we're in right relationship with ourselves, we won't be harming the planet. We won't be destroying rivers and land and chopping down as many trees. We're not doing those things if we're in right relationship. A lot of those things, it's consumerism, consumption, and greed. And, we're going away from our alignment. But as we're in alignment, we're not destroying the earth that we're living on. We're living in harmony, in synergy, and a symbiotic relationship, like with nature. And I mean, there's wonderful movies out, like I think Avatar 2 just came out, and I think that's also shows you like people living in harmony with nature versus people coming in and destroying nature for refining to get fuel to make money. And you know, and it's finding the balance between those things, right? And then that third one is right relationship with each other. When we're in right relationship with ourselves and we're in right relationship with nature, we tend then to act in a way that's in right relationship with each other, because one of the teachings of bioenergy is that everyone is really a reflection of ourselves, you know, and when we get that, when we come into right relationship with that, we're not harming each other. And then we're also not projecting our wounds and our pain and our suffering onto each other. We're actually taking personal responsibility for our wounds and our suffering, and we're healing it, right? And when we heal our wounds and our suffering, we're not passing them on. We're actually healing that part within ourselves. And then number 8, so on the list of 10 things for your health, number 8 is less technology, more nature. And that's another, I call these the givens. I'm not sharing anything with you that you don't know, right? You know, less technology, more nature. Well, what's that about? Well, stress, right? Like that, you know, years ago, like, as I said, I've been doing bioenergy for 30 years. The majority of my practice has been treating pain as being the number one thing. And about, I would say in the last 7 years, that has been surpassed with stress and anxiety. So stress and anxiety has surpassed insofar as that I'm treating more people now with anxiety and stress than I am for pain. And pain has always been, I love treating pain because, you know, I've never found anything as effective as bioenergy for getting rid of pain. So I love treating pain, but it's like, it's actually being surpassed with stress and anxiety. But, you know, I love treating stress and anxiety too, because, you know, when it's very debilitating for people when people are in stress and anxiety. And, you know, I've dealt with stress and anxiety, depression, I've dealt with these things. And, you know, it's an ongoing process of finding tools and learning to work in ways that you're not being debilitated by these things. But certainly I find like less technology. So I think technology is wonderful. I love technology, but we also have to unplug, you know, we have to unplug ourselves, and we have to get out in nature, and nature balances us. And, you know, we could do a whole talk tonight just on that alone, but suffice to say that on a David Hawkins scale of consciousness, nature is up there in the high vibrations of, like, it's up past enlightenment in the 700 range. Now, enlightenment starts after peace at 600. So love is at 500. Guilt, fear, shame, fear is about 100. Guilt and shame are in the 50s and the 30s. So just to give you an idea of the spectrum. But nature, the trees, the plants, the reason you feel so good after coming back in from a hike or from a walk in nature is because the vibration, the frequency of nature is literally 5th dimensional energy. It's literally just pure enlightenment. Nature is. So when we're out in nature, we start to vibrate, because cells, think of it this way, you have mirror neurons in your body, which means that even if you're standing with somebody else, have you ever noticed how you start to match their body language? And that's the mirror neurons in your body are matching their body. So what we do is, when we look outside and we perceive the world, we start to match what we see, you know. And so if we're always on technology, we're bringing our energy frequency and vibration down. We're increasing our stress levels, and maybe we're not even breathing as well, you know. And so when we're out in nature, one of the things that I love with nature is I find that I love the smell of pine. You know, when you're walking through a park and you smell the pine, and I find it really grounds me. And I think, you know, I think of that as like, if you think of animals, animals are generally like their nose is closer to the ground, right, than humans. So the animals, especially a dog, right, they're sniffing everything. You know, if you're bringing a dog out for a walk, you know, the dog is sniffing everything. But what happens is that when we smell, we're really coming into the root chakra. So the sense of smell is related to the root chakra, fear and trust. And so when we come into the smell and we smell nature and we come into harmony with nature, we're balancing our root chakra. So trust starts to resonate in the root chakra, and also peace does. And peace vibrates in a frequency of 600. So that's why often when you walk out of nature, you're like, oh my God, I feel so peaceful. Well, yeah, absolutely, because you're literally like reaching levels of up to 600 on the scale of consciousness, which is really close to enlightenment at that level. So peace, you know, is such a beautiful vibrational frequency. So I wanted to share kind of 10 things with you tonight, for 10 things for your health and well-being. That's the first 8. The last 2 are the best, in my opinion, out of all 10. And the last 2, number 9 for me, the best thing you can do for your health is bioenergy sessions. And, you know, again, that's another whole conversation, but just a glimpse into that is, you know, we accumulate so much physical, emotional, mental baggage, and bioenergy sessions are just a great way to de-stress, to unravel your blockages. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Like, healthy people tend not to have blockages in their energy field. And people don't wake up one day and they get sick. You have blockages in your biofield, in your energy field, sometimes years before you get sick, you know. And so the blockages that are appearing in your energy field over time, they start to congest and they start to prevent the natural flow of energy moving through your body. In the same way that, like, you know, things can block up a river. So the natural state of a river is to flow. And as things accumulate, rocks and sticks and leaves and stuff, they can reduce and stop that river from flowing. But that potential to flow is always there. And so for me, bioenergy healing is literally coming in and clearing the blocks out of the way so that your own natural energy can flow. I'm not making anybody's energy flow, you know. Your energy will flow if there's nothing in the way. The problem is you have 7 major energy points in your body that get blocked, and they all relate to different stress points in your life, from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra. Each one of those is like a junction, and that's where things tend to clog. They clog in the 7 major chakras of the body. So for me, one of the best things you can do for your health is to work on the chakra system, to work on the biofield, to unclog. You know, it's like if we were a plumber, we'd say we're unclogging the pipes, right? And what that does is it allows the energy to flow more freely through the body. And, you know, it doesn't matter, even if you've been sick for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, it doesn't matter. In bioenergy, it doesn't matter how long you've been sick. We're not working on the ailments, we're working on the energy. And as soon as the blocked energy is taken away, the new energy begins to flow again. And so just like a river, even if a river was blocked from flowing for 10 years, as soon as you take the blockage out of the way, the river starts to flow. It doesn't argue with you. It doesn't say, well, I'm not going to flow because I didn't, you know, because I was clogged up for the last. It just flows. That's what it does. And when we talk about creating a new level of health for ourselves, understanding the importance of working on your biofield, your energy field. You are energy. Every one of us is energy. In fact, everything is energy. It's just energy at different frequencies and vibrations. The world in which we live moves in waves, rhythms, patterns, and cycles. And what that is that's moving is energy, frequency, and vibration, and so that's why sometimes we say, oh, I like their vibe, or I don't like their vibe. We're always giving off a vibe, but on such a deeper level that is often even unbeknown to us, we're clogging up our natural energy field. And so number 9 on my list is we're coming to the top 10, number 9 being up there in the very top, is receive some bioenergy healing treatments for yourself. It's the best gift that you can give yourself. That's why we call it a treatment, because it's a treat for you. When people say, like, at the end of a session, they're often like, I don't know what you did on me. Like, I don't know what it was, but I feel lighter and I feel freer. And it's like, I often think I'd love to have like a weighing scales and then weigh people before a session and weigh people after a session. And it's like they've lost a load of psychic weight. So psychic weight that people have been carried around with them, and it's in their pain body. And because we medicate with coffee and foods and that suppress that energy, we're often not even aware of how much pain we're carrying in our body. And then, of course, when you start to feel pain, you don't want to feel pain, so you find ways to divert away from it. So we lose energy to pain. We lose energy to keep pain suppressed. So one of the things that happens when people have healing is they always say, like, I can't believe how much energy I have. Not only do I feel lighter and freer, I have so much more energy. And that's because your energy was suppressing the pain in your body. And it doesn't matter if it's physical pain or emotional pain. If you're suppressing that in your body, you're losing energy to the pain, and you're losing energy to keep it suppressed in your body. So that's why I say it really is a treat for yourself. And then number 10 on my list is bioenergy training. I think, as someone who's been teaching bioenergy training for almost 30 years, it's like, to see the transformation that people go through is unbelievable. And like, the bioenergy healing is great to receive it. It's great for someone to do healing on you, to support you in your health and well-being. But training, like, why healing versus training? Why training versus healing? Healing helps you put your blockages down. Healing helps you release them. Training helps prevent you from picking them up again. Training puts you into the mindset and the understanding where you stop picking up more blockages all the time, where you stop getting wounded by, when you go through the training and you're releasing the wounded body, then you're not reacting to every time someone says something to you, you're not getting as triggered. So you see in our society right now, like, people are offended at everything. Like, it's getting that you can't even speak, or you might offend someone. It's like, feck that. Like, you should be able to be, it's totally okay to offend people. Let them deal with it, right? Like, people need to deal with it because that's their wound, that's their ego. But what's your ego? Your ego is the unhealed wounds that you're carrying inside yourself. And if you don't heal those wounds, you're always going to find something to be offended at. And you can't go through life getting other people to change what they're doing so that you feel comfortable. Because as long as you're doing that, you're really always suppressing your wounding. And so you're never freeing or liberating yourself. And so I think that training is a great way to break the repeating patterns, break the cycles. And not only are you learning healing, you're helping other people heal, but you're also getting this understanding where you're able to not just heal your own wounds and trauma, but you're also, you realize the depth of healing that you're going through. And I always sum that up as, you're healing when something that someone says that normally triggers you doesn't trigger you anymore. That's the test of your progress, right? So, when when you're making progress by healing your own wounding, you'll notice that, you know, your ego wants to be offended, and you're not getting offended anymore. You're not getting triggered, and your trigger is your responsibility, right? So that's what we're healing. So that's kind of my take on that. But at the end of our talk tonight, and we are flying through it, but at the end of our talk, I'd like to gift you with something for the new year, for new people who are on the call. So I'm gonna take a breather for a moment, just because I've talked nonstop for 40 minutes. But I hope that there's some good tips in there for you. And now some good tips in there for you for ideas for improving your health and your well-being. But now I want to come back around to our title, like how to create a change in your health in 2023. Well, let's remove 2023 just for a moment, and let's look at what's happening, you know, for all of us. The world is going through a massive change. You know, in whatever way you want to look at it, you can look at it from multiple perspectives. But literally from a spiritual perspective, the Buddhists say that we're shifting into the golden age. And I tend to like, I don't know all about the philosophies that other people teach, but I tend to notice like how I feel in the energy, and how I feel is like that, you know, in the last 2.5 years or so, the world stopped. The whole world, no one thought the whole world would stop. No one thought airplanes would stop flying and people would stop working, and no one knew that we're going to be in for such a dramatic change in our life. We've gone like through a tremendous transformation in the last 2.5 years. Like, so there's no doubt that something is changing. But we've also, like, prior to that, it's also been like that. Sorry, that we're also aware that the system in which we live and work in and should be thriving in, like there's a lot of corruption in our system, and you don't have to look far, and it's in everything. It's in the political system for sure, you know. It's in the banking system, absolutely. It's in the education system. It's in the food industry. It's in the pharmaceutical industry. And there really isn't anywhere you can go where there isn't, you know, from the top down, media, everything. There's a lot of corruption. And you know, sometimes we have to take a pause and say, like, if we were in right relationship with ourselves, and if we were in right relationship with nature, and if we were in right relationship with each other, then those things, all of that corruption isn't acceptable, you know. But in some ways it's like right there in our face, and people just keep getting away with doing the same things of extorting the very best out of people. It's like you know, people are working just to survive rather than thriving, and the society has created a way in which it's like we always have to be on the move, go, you know. We have to be like achieving, accomplishing, getting accolades. We have to like earn money and have money so that we're not in debt. And you know, despite all of that, people are in debt, people are under stress, and you know, even in relationships, so many relationships end in divorce and stuff, right? So many marriages. And it's like, well, if we're really thriving and in alignment, why is that the norm, right? Like, that's not the abnormal, that's the norm. So why is that? And regardless of why that is, or that, I think the point comes down is that as we shift into our next stage of evolution, And in bioenergy, I call this the shift from the solar plexus chakra to the heart chakra. And the solar plexus one is the power center, it's the passion center, but it's also the fire center. It's also the doing, the achieving, the accomplishing. And it's wonderful for doing and achieving and accomplishing, but we're in overdrive. And one of the ways that you can see that, and that I've seen that for the last 30 years, is that people have been living in a more sympathetic nervous system, more than a balanced sympathetic and parasympathetic. And what that means is that we're living in a more fight, flight, adrenaline, you know, the adrenal glands are pumping adrenaline. And what that does is that when that's on, you know, automatic pilot all the time, it leads to things like chronic fatigue. It leads to adrenal fatigue. And, you know, over the years, I've had the, I've had the, I guess, opportunity to work with a lot of people with low energy, because people often think, you know, I've low energy, I've tried everything to get better, nothing has worked, so I'll go to an energy healer, maybe they have energy, you know. And when I reset their nervous system, when we reset the biofield, their energy levels start to balance out. And maybe they've been like that for 8 years of running on adrenal fatigue, and their body just is wiped out and they just can't move. Some people are bedbound, they can't even get out of bed, they're in aches and pains. And when you reset their nervous system, when you reset their body, it doesn't matter if they've been like that for 8 years. It's like the river flowing. As soon as you do the healing on them, as soon as their body starts to heal, as soon as the energy starts to flow, their energy levels come up again, their energy levels balance out. And I think that's the most beautiful thing to understand with healing, is that health is your body's natural state, that your body will always return to health given the opportunity. By taking the blocks out of the way, the body will return to health. So coming back to this idea, the world is going through this tremendous change. And I think what that change is, in a very practical, physical sense, we're being pulled into the present moment. You know, we're literally being pulled back into a balanced nervous system. We're being pulled back to the breath. We're being pulled back to the pain body. We're being pulled inwards as opposed to outwards. We've been living in a way that is outwards, and we're being pulled back inwards. And you see it in the way of, like, the world is really in this polarized duality kind of thing right now. And why I say the world is going through a tremendous change, or I'm going to say a healing, the whole world is going through healing, is that what I've seen thousands and thousands of times is that whenever someone is really off balance in their life, the pendulum has to swing the opposite way before it comes back into its center. And so when the pendulum is swinging in the opposite way and it's off its center, then it's like chaos kind of happens, and we are in the chaos, and we've been in the chaos for the last, you know, almost couple of years. But we're not in the chaos to stay in it, we're in it to change systems, to break down systems. And it's the same thing that the body does. When we're living in a way that is not conducive to our health and well-being, the body breaks down. You know, when we're working against our natural health and well-being, when we're doing jobs that we hate, when we're not living in ways that are in harmony, that are in peace, then the pendulum is being pushed or pulled off balance, and it's only a matter of time before it swings to the opposite side. And that's what we had 2.5 years ago. We had the pendulum swing to the opposite side. So instead of all of this drive forward, we went into an absolute standstill, you know. And now the pendulum is going back and forth, but where the pendulum is going to end up is in the center. And so we're at a time where both individually and collectively, the world is resetting itself. We're being rebooted is another way to say it. And we're going to see like a lot of tumbling down of corporations, and anything that's out of alignment is falling, it's tumbling down. And part of that is that if there's areas of our life where we're out of alignment, it's going to get harder and harder to keep doing those things. So like, as an example, if you're working in a job that you hate, it's going to get harder and harder to keep doing it. If you're in a relationship that is unhealthy or abusive, it's going to get harder and harder to stay in it. And we've seen that in the last 2.5 years. So many people have changed jobs, changed relationship, moved. You've had this opportunity to really go into your wounds and your ego and your healing. And even like, a big fear for a lot of people is losing all your money. And it's like, what happens when you lose your job? It's your biggest fear, right? And then you have to go spend all your savings. And then what happens when you spend all your savings? Well, people got an opportunity to experience that, right? People got an opportunity to go to their worst fears and then realize they're still alive. And even fear of death through COVID. People got COVID and realized, a lot of people, yeah, people died, but a lot of people didn't die. And then realizing you're still alive. Not only are you still alive, but you've recovered. So the fears, what are we purging in the healing we're purging fear, we're purging trauma, we're purging. It's such a weird thing. In order for the universe to get us to heal, it's putting us back into all our wounding. It's giving us an opportunity to experience all the things that we experienced that caused our wounding, that we don't want it, because the shadow self, they're hidden in the shadow. So everything that we resist persists because it's looking to bring our wounding up so that we go back in and access it and feel it and experience it and heal it, right? So we're literally being pulled into transformation. We're being pulled into alignment, and it's getting harder and harder to live out of alignment. I also think it's also giving us, the last couple of years gave us an opportunity to live with a lot less, to get off that consume. I mean, even if you weren't going to work, an opportunity to unplug yourself, where else would you get that opportunity other than losing your job? But even if you're working at home, you got an opportunity to actually be in your home, or sometimes people are just going home to sleep. So there's a lot of changes, and it maybe has affected us all very differently, but some of the themes of the last couple of years has been similar for people. So with that said, I would say the old version of us is dying, and the old version of this planet is dying. And while it's dying, it looks chaotic, And in my teachings, I've always liked to lead with, I've been teaching this philosophy for a long time, but it's the philosophy of the caterpillar to the butterfly. And we're shifting from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And when you think of the caterpillar is consumption. It eats something like over 600 times its body weight, as it consumes and then consumes and consumes. And then it stops and it hibernates and it turns into goop. And we, my friends, are in the goop. And we've been in the goop I know you're fucking sick of the goop. We've been in the goop for quite a while, But, when the caterpillar goes from the caterpillar to the butterfly, it's not, you think of it as, oh, it's this beautiful transformation and you gain your wings and you take off. it's a beautiful idea, the caterpillar to the butterfly, you're remembering that you're an angelic, being. You're remembering that you're full fractal Christ consciousness light being. Everything is magical and wonderful, and you're dancing with the fairies. It's not quite like that. It's more of you turn into fucking goop and you completely dissolve yourself. And any ego that's left, you'll be beaten down and broken down until the point where you're like, I give up, and you'll give up over and over and over again until the part of you that is fighting dissolves, and that we're in our power. We're not fighting to be in our power. We're just returning back into our power. We're returning back to a healthy solar plexus, which is that you're in your fire, but you're not burning everybody else with it. You're not projecting your wounds onto everybody and scorching them. But your fire is a furnace inside you that warms you and feeds you and nourishes you and is your passion for life, but it's not out of control. Your fire is your responsibility. And so these are some of the energies that are being called in. I personally, I feel them very strongly. I felt them, for the last 30 years, but nothing is like what's happening on the planet right now. We're coming to the boom moment, and that boom is that, like I said, whether it's just you feeling like that you can't keep living in the way that you're living, we're being pulled into dissolving. We're being pulled into our wounding. We're being pulled in. If you have grief inside you, you're getting an opportunity to feel that grief. If you have a lack of self-love, self-worth even for your physical body, if you don't love your body, you're being challenged right now, because that is no longer unconscious to you. That is no longer hidden in the shadows. That is in your face, because it's up for healing. That it's turn. This is your body's turn for you to come back into right relationship. And the longer you take to do that, the louder and louder and the more chaotic and the more crazy it's going to get. But one thing is for certain, nature is bringing us back into alignment, either in a loving, kind way or kicking and screaming. But one way, make no mistake, we're coming back into alignment. And I know it doesn't always feel like that. We look at the state of the world and we're like, it's chaotic out there. But you know what? That chaos is the breaking down, the dissolving, the releasing, the purging of, and so like even as I said, even people being offended at anything now, even that is perfect, because that is the duality, the polarization. It's the spectrum is going to the other end of the spectrum. That's why it's so chaotic, because everything that was being done in the shadows is now out in the open. So even your how would we say it, like the things that you're judgmental about, the things that you judge other people for, you were able to get away with that before, and nobody would know, and you didn't even know. But now when you're judging others, it's in your face, it's coming up, it's getting exposed. So your shadow isn't staying in the shadows, it's coming out, it's getting polarized. So you're being pushed into polarization, either believe in this or believe in that. And there's always someone telling you, believe in this or believe in that. There's always something. Well, healing, what is healing about? Healing is about coming back into a right relationship with the self, which is alignment, which is atonement, which is the vertical flow of energy. And it's not the duality. It's neither the polarization, it's alignment. And so as we come into our alignment, then this is the shift. this is the shift that I've been teaching from the solar plexus to the heart chakra. And what's the heart chakra about? Well, the heart chakra is love and compassion. The Buddhists teach kindness and compassion. Well, that's the heart chakra. Love, kindness, compassion. That's the heart chakra. And nature is compassionate, my friends. Nature is compassionate. Now, why would nature be kicking our arse? Well, because compassion isn't always gentle. Sometimes we need a rude awakening. Compassion is kind. It's compassion. It's powerful, but it's also like, it's also tough, right? Compassion is tough. And I've often found that as a bioenergy healer and teacher, that, you know, even helping people recover their health, sometimes you got to be tough with people. You know, you can be tough and kind at the same time, but it's like sometimes you've got to be strong. You've got to be strong to help people get out of being sick for 30 years. You got to call them out on their bullshit. You know, you got to call them out on their lifestyle, the way they're living that is not in harmony. You know, you got to call them out in different ways. And you got to help them see what's unconscious. You got to help them see those patterns. Is this making sense? Now, I know we've hit our hour mark, but I've got a handful of good stuff left. So I'm just going to keep going. If you need to leave, by all means, but I'm going to keep going because the energy is flowing through me right now, and I don't want to cut it off. So, you know, I was saying the old version of us is dying, which is really the ego. And again, I come back to, well, what's the ego? The ego is our core wounds. It's our wounds from childhood. You know, people say, oh, the ego is bad. You know, good, bad, whatever. The ego is really just our core wounds. They're the wounds that we carry from childhood. And when they're not processed, when they're not healed, when they're not acknowledged, when they're not received, you know, then they carry on throughout our life. And it doesn't matter if 10 years go by or 20 years or 50 years, you know, you can have someone on their deathbed with still a lot of wounding in their body. And, you know, it's funny too, people will die in a way that they've lived. So if you live and you have peace, you'll die with peace. And if you live and you're in anger, you'll die suffering. You know, it's like a lot of hospice workers and palliative care nurses will often say, like, people die in the same way that they've lived, you know, and we don't need to wait till our deathbed to want to let go of our fears and angers and stuff. It's like the time is now, the time is ripe, you know. So we're saying, like, whether we deliberately choose to step into healing and work on ourselves one way or another, nature is bringing us to that place where we have no choice but to face those things. The shadow is being exposed, and that basketball is coming up from underneath the water, and as soon as you take the pressure off, it's coming up, but it's coming up to be healed, to be released. And I said, what we're, you know, part of the healing that the world is going through is that we've been living in a way that's like pushing and pulling, like we're pushing, you know, we're driving and driven and pushing forward. And it's an overdriven sympathetic nervous system. It's like the nervous system is inflamed. Like, so it's inflamed or in flames. That's why it's the fight or flight. It's your fight. It's the adrenaline comes into your body and you're fighting, you know, and so you're inflamed. Well, now let's break down illness, right? Well, what's illness? Nearly all illness comes from inflammatory conditions, inflammation in the body. Ask any doctor, what's illness from? Inflammation in the body. Inflammation is the cause of illness, right? And so if inflammation is the cause of illness, what's causing inflammation? Well, it's the stress of being in that driven, that drive all the time. It's out of balance, right? It's not in alignment. It's out of balance, right? And the sympathetic nervous system is wonderful. We need it. It's not about getting, we need it. It's a duality. It's part of a system. We've got the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and they work together, right? The parasympathetic is the rest and digest, but it's also, just as the sympathetic is the fight and flight, it's also fight, flight, and freeze. And then the parasympathetic is rest, digest, and heal. And so when people are not healing and they wonder why, 10 years later, they're not healing, well, the answer is very obvious. They're not coming back into a state of harmony in the body where the body heals itself. They're not resetting their nervous system. They're not coming back into that state where the body is healing itself, where the body's coming back into balance. Does that make sense? Right? So how that shows up, like how that stress shows up in the body when we're in that stress all the time, it shows up in the biofield. It shows up in the electromagnetic energy of the body, because your body is electricity, your body is magnetism, your body is all these things. You've got, almost 70 trillion cells in your body, and each one of those cells has approximately 1.17 volts of electrical potential. You're an electrical being, and every electrical field has a magnetic field. So now you're an electromagnetic being. You're an energetic being. And when we're in that overdrive, when we're in that stress accumulates somewhere. Well, the body holds it in the biofield, and it appears in the biofield long before it appears in the physical body. And the biofield is always trying to eliminate and de-stress the body. And sometimes we're able to do it by ourselves, and then other times we're not able to de-stress by ourselves. And a lot of times people can't de-stress their own biofield is because there's a lot of people out there that don't even know they have a biofield. And if we listen to, more of a conventional approach, they say, well, your biofield is a waste product of your electrons, of your atoms in your body vibrating. It's just a wasted energy, right? So modern Western medicine, it's just a wasted energy. It has no purpose. Then you go to more, instead of the Western world, you go to India, the Eastern teachings, and then you find out that this electromagnetic energy that's linked into our vibrational energy and frequency, and also our spirit, comes first, and the body comes after. And that's a whole other take on the body, that the energy of the person is there first and the body's after. And that starts to block up first, and then the body blocks up after, So this is where I say, like, for me, why the top 2 things on my list of 10 of things that you can do for yourself, the number 9 is in the top 9 is having bioenergy treatment, because it's detoxing your biofield. It's eliminating energy that can be emotional blockages, mental blockages, physical blockages, spiritual blockages. See, all of those are just energy. Not to get lost in translation, but energy gets blocked through physical, emotional, or mental stress, but it shows up in the body then as illness and sickness. And so where we have to tackle that is at the level at which it's getting blocked up. We have to tackle it at a level at which where the origin of that blockage is appearing in the field. And then we have to re-educate ourselves, which is what bioenergy training is. We have to re-educate ourselves on why we're getting sick, and we got to re-educate ourselves on, and like I said, at this moment, nature is educating people. You know, if you haven't been listening to yourself, now nature is forcing you to listen to her because she's all powerful, right? And nature is slowing us down. And you'll see, like, for anyone who's aware of, like, you know, even just like the things that you've normally done, like in the last number of years, it's getting harder and harder to keep doing those things. And that's why creating health in 2023 is not the same as creating health in 1988 or 1990 or 1999. You know, we're not in the same energy. The energy is lighter and freer and different. We're moving into our more light body energetic state. Now you could call that our full fractal Christ consciousness light being, because it sounds beautiful, and potentially that is what we're growing in, moving into, you know. And as we're coming into that, then everything that is not of the light is being purged, is being released. Does that make sense? And that's why we see the world purging. That's why, you know, and we'll continue to see worlds and governments and corporations and medical professions and banking and education system. We'll continue to see them get more and more chaotic until they purge. And then when the pendulum has gone completely off balance, you know, and it balances out, then we'll see things come into alignment. But we don't need to wait till the world comes into alignment for us to come into alignment. In fact, the world can only come into alignment as we come into alignment, because the world is a reflection of us. And as we come into alignment, the world will reflect that alignment back. And that's why when people say we are the change, well, it's true, because the world is a reflection of us. It's a reflection of our consciousness. As is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm, you know. And you know, we could go on. Like I said, there's so much, and it's like fitting it into an hour is hard. But I hope that you've enjoyed this, these channeling, whatever you want to call it, this energy, wisdom, information that wants to come true, that wants to be shared. Like I said, I've been teaching and practicing bioenergy for 30 years. And like in December, I think it was, I just felt like I felt called to just come in and just start like delivering stuff to people and giving them ways to come into alignment, ways to come into health and well-being. And so there's a few ways for you there to improve your health for 2023. There's so much more to talk about, but in summary, if you have never had a session of bioenergy, I totally recommend it. There's a list of practitioners on our website. Maybe you can find someone who's near you and go in and have a treatment with them. I also offer distant healing treatments. So if anybody, doesn't matter where you are, you can always tune in and have a treatment online. It's instead of the Wi-Fi, we're using the internet, you know. So instead of the internet, we're using the internet, and it's unbelievable. It works the same as if we're standing there right beside each other. So consider having some treatment for the new year. The other thing I offer is training, and my main course I teach is a level 1 bioenergy training. It's about putting people's health back in their own hands. And I have a level 1 training coming up on the 14th and 15th of January. So it's coming up pretty close. There's a couple of spots left. And the level 1 training is powerful and transformational and inspiring. It'll inspire you in every cell of your body and every cell of your being. I think one of the best things you take away from it is that I don't think there's anything better than being able to take people's pain away. And really what you're doing is you're taking the blocks away, and then their energy is flowing freely. and their pain dissolves. And it's a beautiful gift to be able to be of that level of service to other people. You know, it's such a beautiful gift. Whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, and sometimes emotional pain is just as bad as physical pain, you know, and to be able to help relieve people's suffering. I think that, you know, sometimes I often find that people come into the training and they end up on a course, they're not quite sure why they're there. But sometimes I think Spirit calls us to the work that we're here to do, and to be of service, to devote ourselves to something more than ourselves, you know, and that to me is what healing is. It is selfish. You're also doing it for yourself, absolutely, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more than it, because you're really taking the attention of yourself. You're helping other people, which actually really helps you in the long run. That's another interesting healing thing, is that if you want to heal yourself of chronic conditions, learn how to do healing for other people. It's another tip for getting into recovery. But I said too that for those who are on, that I would have a New Year gift. So what I'd like to do for anybody who's interested in that level 1 workshop coming up on January 14th and 15th in Vancouver, if you're interested in taking that workshop, it's $695 for the workshop. If you sign up for that workshop within the next 24 hours, I'm going to give you a free bioenergy treatment with me. And the treatment session with me is $175. And if you sign up for the level 1 training, you're going to get a free bioenergy session. If it's out of your way that you can't come to level 1 to Vancouver for the level 1, you can also take level 1 online through my website. That's at half price. And if you take the level 1 online, if you sign up within the next 24 hours, I'm going to give you a distant healing session at 50% off. So the healing sessions and the distant healing sessions are $175, and I'll give 50% off a distant healing session if you sign up. And that's for your New Year bonus. And